Hello, in this video I'm going to quickly run through some essential Linux commands and their uses, and also talk about which ones you'll use most often for this course. So right now I'm in the VS Code on the Docker. So this is a full Linux environment, even though it might look like my Mac. So let's actually start by essential Linux commands. So I'm going to kind of type them up here and show you what they do down in the terminal as well. So for me, first and foremost, the most important command I like to keep my digital workspace neat is this command clear, if I can type. So clear, let's format this pretty. Split right. Oh no, wait, what's the markdown? Open preview to the side. Okay. So there's a command called clear, and what this does is when you have a busy terminal, it will simplify it. Busy terminal. So this also, it just hides a bunch of things, clears you back to your standard root state. Okay, it's, why is it italicizing? That's weird, whatever. So that is, in my opinion, the most important Linux command. But then there's some other ones that are super useful. Now, because we're doing this class as a dev container in VS Code, these next couple aren't going to be that useful. If you're more comfortable, you can always just use, the standard VS Code navigation tools. But the standard navigation inside of the terminal is ls, which is going to give you a list of what files exist. So ls equals list. And we're not going to actually do this. We're just going to do this. So ls is a list, and it lists the files in our current directory. Now, we can specify to list a different directory, and that will list inside of that directory. So if we come here, we can actually see that this is true. So we see all our stuff. We see the Docker file. We see the license. We see the README. We see this Cobot workstation. We see this entry point shell file. We see this essential Linux commands markdown file, yada yada. And then if we go inside of student workspace, we see build, install, log, source, venv, exactly like the ls showed us. So this is super useful just to quickly check yourself that what things exist are there. Then we've got cd, which is change directory. So let's say we are happy with, we see something inside of student workspace that we want to interact with. So we cd into student workspace. Now, important note, which is note. File paths in Linux are split into two main different types. Relative and absolute paths. So a relative path, I did not put another, okay, fine, is from the current directory, while an absolute path it's from the root directory. So this student workspace cd command, right? We got to it from here by cding student workspace, which is the relative file path. And you can tell because there's no slash at the beginning. Now, if I want to do an absolute file path, I could cd slash workspaces. See how that starts with a slash? That means it starts from the root directory, which is just the single slash. So those are the two. Why is it being weird? I don't know why it's being weird. Whatever. I don't care. This matters throughout all of the Linux stuff. Another important thing to note is that file paths are case sensitive. So if I tried to, do this, it's not gonna know what I'm talking about. Well, I spelled it wrong anyway, but it says it doesn't exist because this is capital, whereas here, now it knows what that is, because that's lowercase. So that's something to be very cognizant of as you do your work. A lot of times, students will have problems because the code they wrote is trying to refer to lowercase ITCS 4150, or, their file is actually named, like, capital I, L, something, and they mix up which ones are capital. The last, essential Linux command, the last two, are MKDIR. This stands for make directory. So, make dir, and then I can give it a name. So let's call this one tester. Now when I list, we see that directory showing up again. And I can go into it, and because we just made it, there's nothing in here. But I can make something else in here. dir2. And now, if I can type, we now see dir2 in there. Again, if you wanted to, you could also just do this inside the VS Code tools with the, make folder or right-click, make new folder. But personally, it's good to know how to do it with Linux, and giving that some practice definitely will not hurt. If you're interested in robotics, so much of robotics is done in Linux that being very familiar with these basic Linux commands will also help make you more familiar and more comfortable using the terminal just in general. There also is RM. This stands for remove. And there's also RMDIR, which is remove directory. So directories are a little special. They're files, but they also have some special permissions on them. So RMDIR just makes it really easy to remove those directories. So if I go back, so another interesting thing that you can do is every folder has a hidden file, ... that that refers to its parent. So you see how I was in tester, and then I ran cd ... and now I'm just in that directory. It's a very useful thing to be able to just hop back on real quick. This is a relative file path because it doesn't have that slash, right? So then I can remove the test directory. Oh, it's not empty. Okay. I can go into the test directory and I can remove directory 2. Oh. Yeah, I made that a directory, didn't I? So now directory 2 is gone, and I can go back up to the parent, and I can remove directory tester, and now tester is gone. So these are both very useful to help clean stuff up. But the absolute most useful command is 100% this command. So that's why I'm going to bold it. A lot of commands matter where you run them. So, for example, a command we're going to use a lot, and don't worry about this command. We'll talk about it in the assignment, and we'll do it. This is a ROS command, but this command changes depending on where you run it. It builds the current directory. So we always want to run that from inside the student workspace, not inside the source, just inside the student workspace like this, where we see the source at the same level as us. And then we could run this command. And so you'll need to CD around to get into where you're trying to go for your terminal so that you can run those commands properly. that's basic Linux commands. This video is getting a little longer than I want. I wanted it to be kind of quick to jump around. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. But these are the ones that really you need to make sure you know if you're going to be trying to interact with the Linux environment. And I'll push this markdown file up as well so that you can reference it if you need to. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good one.